At approximately 12 p.m. on March 2nd, 2020, Stephen Nix had arrived home finding his wife, 32-year-old Breana Nix, unresponsive in the bathroom. He calls 911 at 12:12 p.m. saying he had just found his wife unresponsive. The paramedics arrived 2 minutes later at 12:14 p.m. Stephen's parents and sister were there, but what surprised the paramedics was the fact that Stephen's uncle was already at the scene. Stephen's uncle is a deputy sheriff who was supposed to be on duty at Oneonta, roughly a half hour away from Breana's home. The paramedics were a few blocks away from the home and arrived less than 5 minutes. So, how did his uncle arrive at the scene before the paramedics, and why exactly was he there? Around 12:20 p.m., while EMTs were trying to revive Breana, Stephen called Breana's mother, letting her know that her daughter had just killed herself. Afterward, he called Breana Noojin, Breana's sister, and asked her, "What are you doing?" and then followed up with, "Well, you better get over here. Your sister has tried to kill herself." She didn't believe him at first due to how calmly he said it, but nonetheless, she rushed over to check on her sister. Approximately 20 minutes later, Breana arrived, and not long after, Stephen's sister left. About 10 minutes later, at 12:54 p.m., after many attempts to revive Breana, she was pronounced dead. EMTs noted that Breana's body was cold on arrival, so this means by the time Stephen had found her body, she had been dead for some time. What they also found was an 18-gauge needle right beside her body, indicating she may have overdosed, but from what remains unknown at the moment. They were able to see that she was bleeding from her right elbow, which was the location she supposedly injected herself. There were also spots of blood on the sink. Breana asked Stephen what happened. He said he was outside on the front porch when he heard a loud thump coming from inside the home. He assumed Breana dropped her phone and thought nothing of it. He went on his way to go to the dump to take out the trash and then to the bank. When he returned an hour later, he noticed the bathroom door was shut, but the light was still on. He had to push the door hard to open it, and once he did, that's when he discovered Breana's body was on the floor with her head against the door. Though there was something odd about Stephen at the moment. Besides not showing any signs of distraught, he was so focused on trying to grab the garbage in the bathroom. So much so that he was in the way of EMTs when they were trying to revive Breana. Once he managed to obtain it, he placed it into the kitchen garbage bin. Or at least he tried to, because the trash in the kitchen was overflowing with garbage. So he goes outside and places the bag in his truck. Stephen was pretty uncooperative with the police. He refused to allow them to search his truck and phone, and refused them to give the passcode to access Breana's phone. Luckily, Breana knew the passcode and gave it to the police. Once unlocking Breana's phone, they saw that Breana was in the middle of watching a Facebook video. There was also a notification of a missed call coming from Stephen at 7:53 a.m. Police questioned Stephen about the call, to which he says he probably woke up and called her, but doesn't have any memory of doing so. However, several hours later, around 7 p.m., Stephen told Breana in a phone call that he called Breana that morning to pull a prank on her, but he never elaborated what the prank was. He then tells her that he has gone through her phone right before EMS arrived and discovered in her recent search history that she Googled how to kill yourself and how to kill your dogs. Police were still interested in Stephen's truck, cell phone, and Breana's car. Stephen told them that it was okay to search through Breana's vehicle, but as I mentioned earlier, he denied them access when it came to his belongings. But later that day, the police were able to obtain 3 search warrants, one for his truck, including the bathroom trash bag, the trash outside the home, and Breana's cell phone. When they began searching his truck, the trash bag was gone and they found nothing else that was out of the ordinary, as well as the trash outside. Around 3 in the afternoon on March 4th, Breana gets a call from Stephen telling her he has something important to show her right now. When she arrived, Stephen's parents and sister were present. Stephen presents her with 2 empty vials of fentanyl and the bag of bloody needles. He claims he found this in her belongings. Now, it wasn't strange to think that Breana was able to obtain these vials, as she was a registered nurse. However, when Brittany presented a photo of the vials to employees at the hospital where Breana worked, they stated that their vials do not match the ones that were found by Steven. Before she could leave, she mentioned to Steven and his family that she would be heading back to the funeral home to do Breana's makeup. They all begged her to not go because they didn't want her to see Breana in that state. However, she went anyways. She went to the funeral home on the following day. She was shocked to see when the staff presented her the many bruises on Breana's body. While some looked faded, many looked recent and were the cause of a large gauge needle. They counted 80 of them, which raised many questions. If Breana was going to inject drugs into her system, why would she, a registered nurse for 12 years, inject herself 80 times, especially with a large needle in areas that would be hard for her to reach with her dominant hand? Now, I cannot show the photos out of the respect for the family, but here's an illustration of where the bruises were located based on the photos I've seen. 4 on the top of her left foot, 4 on her right foot, 1 bruise was under while the other 3 were on the side, 2 bruises on the top of her right hand, and a small one on her right knee. Breana worked the 12-hour shift the night before her death, and witnesses stated they never saw any kind of bruising at all, especially since she was wearing flip-flops. This meant her bruises would have been visible. She got off around 7 AM and it takes her an hour to get home, meaning those bruises had to have happened within 4 hours between 8 AM and 12 PM. Breana also had defensive wounds on the palm of her hand and what looked like fingernail scratches on the side of her right knee. Based on what Brittany had seen, she believes that Breana was held down while injected. When Brittany left the funeral home, she called Steven to inform him about the bruises she had seen. They had a short conversation and brings up that he needs a haircut, to which she said her son needed one too. He then replied with, and I quote, "Good, tell him he can come with me and get some titties rubbed on him too." This wasn't the first nor was it the last time he had said something as foul as this. On February 25th, just days before Breana's death, he sent this text to Brittany. "If your sister asks if you ordered us a sex swing, tell her yes and that it will be here Friday sometime. I have her fire the F up about it. Matter of fact, in about 15 minutes text her and say, hey, just a FYI, y'all's swing should be in Friday." Steven has also been reported to take pictures of random women at the beach and sometimes right in front of Breana. The next day on March 6th, right before Breana's burial, Breana's family and Steven were allowed to see her in private. Steven brought a bouquet of flowers that was from their wedding. According to Brittany, Steven said, "I tried to get her to get rid of that bouquet for years and she never would, so I'm just going to send them off with her." Brittany had asked Steven if he can contribute by saying some nice things about Breana in her obituary, but he had nothing to say. After the funeral, people gathered at Brittany's house. There, Steven told a friend of Brittany's husband that he knows a lot of people that are high up in the county and that he could get away with anything he wants. Little did he know that the man he was talking to was an off-duty police officer for another city. Once he found out, his demeanor changed and quickly left the gathering. Now, I mentioned earlier that Steven's uncle was at the crime scene. At the time, Brittany had no idea it was his uncle until the day of Breana's funeral. She said she had talked to the police and Steven's uncle was never mentioned in the arrival sheet, yet he was there working at the crime scene. Another important thing to bring up is how Steven has yet to show any sign of distraught since the death of his wife. When one of his closest friends passed away 6 months before Breana's death, Steven was in bed for an entire week crying over the death of his friend. However, he has never once been seen crying over Breana's death. A few days after the gathering, he has sent another inappropriate text to Brittany that reads, "Should I keep these dang high-dollar sex toys or what should I do? Crazy question to be asking my sister-in-law." On March 7th, Brittany went to Breana's home to pick up the rest of Breana's belongings. Brittany mainly wanted Breana's purse that she gifted her a year before her death. It was an expensive purse and she was worried that Steven was going to sell it. When she arrived, Steven had a lot of Breana's clothes in garbage bags ready to go. Brittany had expressed some items that she wanted, but Steven had already given those things to his sister. She asked him if she could have some of Breana's t-shirts and hoodies. As they were in the bedroom, She asked him if he could reenact what happened. What bothered her the most as he was retelling the event, he was nonchalant about the whole thing. She grabbed the purse she initially was planning to get. However, there was another purse next to it, and Steven told her to grab it and open it, but Brittany said no. He kept insisting, and she obliged. As she opened the purse, she found a syringe and some receipt dating back from 2017. Afterward, he started to go into Breana's panty drawer, where he makes a shocking discovery. In plain sight, there was a bloody napkin. He pulls the entire drawer out and places it on the bed, where they found tons of needles. Now, what's strange about this is that the day after Breana's death, Brittany and her mother were going through Breana's closet and drawers. They were looking for clothes for Breana to wear for her funeral, and they've searched through her stuff thoroughly, yet never seen anything unusual. But here it is. A needle that just happened to be in plain sight somehow being missed by everyone but him. And why was he searching through her panty drawer when Brittany was asking for Breana's t-shirts and hoodies? Steven claims that Breana may have had a secret drug addiction, and she has been using fentanyl to help her go to sleep. But as far as I know, registered nurses are required to take drug tests regularly, and Breana always had a clean record. Plus, if she was trying to keep it a secret, why keep 2 vials that were already empty? Why not throw it away and dispose the evidence? All of this seemed as if it was planted. The hand you're seeing now is Steven's, and Brittany says that these are the kind of black gloves she saw that were in the garbage bag Steven was desperate to get rid of. She asked him if he was going to report all of this, but he says he has to finish his statement on the vials he found days earlier. But nothing ever came up about the vials or the needles he found. He never brought it up again. It was around this time that Breana's family was beginning to think Steven may have had something to do with her death. Days have gone by, and Brittany asked if he could order a headstone. He said he would, only if they would help him pay for it since he wanted a double headstone. He paid for Breana's plot and the plot next to her. Now they would have no issue paying for Breana's headstone, but since they would have to pay for a double headstone because Steven owns both plots, they had a hard time doing so. Steven didn't order the headstone until 6 months later, and there was no excuse why he took this long, as money was not an issue for him, and you'll soon understand why. Breana's family discovered soon that 2 days after Breana's death, witnesses had seen Steven bring a woman into Breana's home. That woman was someone he cheated Breana with many years ago. Breana and Steven dated back in 2008. When the cheating occurred, Breana had dumped him, but he begged her to stay in the relationship. He was a changed man and it would never happen again. Breana believed them, and the two were back together after being separated for a few months. And that's when the two later got married in 2011. However, shortly after their wedding, Steven lost his job as a janitor at a hospital. He would find several odd jobs but would continue to lose them. Each time he lost his job, he would feel lazy to find another. He preferred staying home playing video games all night and drinking alcohol, relying on Breana to do everything financially. He would even brag to people about how he was a stay-at-home husband. Breana made a lot of money as a registered nurse, but Steven wanted more, and for that to happen, he started to take control of her money. Breana couldn't spend her own money, but he can spend it on whatever he liked and continue to spend it until they were in debt of $50,000. He convinced Breana to file for bankruptcy protection, and even though she didn't want to, she eventually did in 2019. Breana was offered life insurance from her job, and she was hesitant at first, but when Steven found out about it, he was quick to convince her to buy it. After being together for nearly 10 years, he still wasn't working. She suspected him of cheating and found out during their time together, Steven was abusing pills. It's odd how he tries to paint this picture of Breana being a drug addict and not him, even though Breana had to hide her Adderall medication because that's the prescription Steven was addicted to. Days before her death, they got into an argument because he believed Breana was cheating and had her turn on her location on her phone. After many issues in their marriage, Breana was getting tired of the abuse and planned to finally leave him in February of 2020, but died before she got the chance. At the end of May, Breana's family received her toxicology report. There was evidence of amitriptyline, amphetamine, fentanyl, sertraline, and norsortraline. Everything besides fentanyl was in her system because of the prescribed medication she had been taking. Medications such as Adderall for ADHD, antidepressants, and anti-anxiety medications. She began taking these in 2019, around the time she filed for bankruptcy protection, after dealing with a lot of stress. The amount found in her system were normal amounts and showed that she wasn't abusing her prescriptions. However, the amount of fentanyl that was found is almost double the lethal dose. The following month, they would see her death certificate. Her cause of death was listed as an accidental overdose due to a mixture of fentanyl and her medications. The same month, the woman Steven was seeing behind Breana's back moved into the home that once belonged to Breana. Now he sits relaxed in her home, spending the money he quickly claimed from her insurance, which was $160,000. He wasted no time buying the things he wanted, like flashy boots, expensive parts for his truck, a shop built behind his home, an expensive lawnmower, and guns. Yet as I mentioned earlier, it took him 6 months to even order a headstone for Breana's grave and wasn't placed until April of 2021. Now jumping forward for a bit, in March 2021, Brittany sent this text to Steven. It reads, "Steven, this has been a very long year. You mentioned before Christmas that a headstone had been ordered. When is it going to be delivered?" And instead of responding, his mother ranted on Facebook the following day about how hard it has been for everyone dealing with Breana's death, especially for Steven, and how hard he has been trying to order the headstone since Breana's death. Around October 2020, an investigator had called Brittany that the grand jury was stopped by the DA because she claimed they received a phone call that Breana witnessed a murder. So the DA claims that Breana witnessed a murder and therefore she was murdered. And that was the end of it. Nothing about this was ever brought up again, and it only left Breana's family more confused. The DA even says that the authorities are certain that the vials came from her workplace, so there's no need to look any further with the vials. The vials have lot numbers on them that can be easily traced. However, they refused to give them to Brittany when requested. Besides, Breana's hospital had already denied with proof that those vials found at her home do not match the ones they possess. Brittany and her mother got in contact with the sheriff's office and were told that the case was referred to the Attorney General. They were then told by the Attorney General that they did not possess Breana's case file in their office. They received this letter from the office of the Attorney General. Now, just a heads up for those wondering, Ginger Thomas is Brittany's mother. The letter reads, "The office of the Alabama Attorney General has received your correspondence. Your information was forwarded to the Investigative Division for review. We have reviewed your correspondence and expressed our deepest sympathy on the loss of your daughter. However, we do not investigate matters where other agencies or law enforcement officials are already acting or have already investigated. Because the case is being investigated by the Blount County District Attorney's Office, this office will take no further action regarding this matter. I would encourage you to contact the District Attorney's Office and explain to them your concerns." Brittany claims that the authorities have destroyed the evidence that was found at Breana's home. The needles that were found were never tested and were contaminated from the number of fingerprints they received from officers. No gloves were used, and they never kept anything in a locker to secure the evidence. As for Breana's phone, they never searched through it. They claim that the data in the phone is completely gone since it was sitting out for about 15 months without it being properly stored. But that's not how technology works, so of course no one bought that. She even mentions that Breana never deleted any of her texts or her call logs, so everything should be there, that is, if it hasn't been tampered with. Around June of 2021, Brittany says the DA has told her that she needs to accept that Brittany has done this to herself. Brittany has stated that she can accept that Breana did this to herself as long as they can provide proof. However, they wouldn't provide Brittany any evidence because the case is still under criminal investigation. I decided to do a quick Google search on the DA and found many interesting comments about her.
Pamela Case is going to get sued, along with others that wronged myself and Attorney Garcia in this situation. it's the right or wrong. It's to compensate. It's also, I think, it's also to teach a lesson. You can't just do people any kind of way and think you're going to get away with it.
A private investigator has stepped into the case. He has seen hours of body cam footage, including the footage of police searching Stephen's truck, which he claims there was a bag containing used syringes. In another footage, Stephen is heard requesting Breana's phone as paramedics attempted to revive her. And lastly, you can see him laughing as he's inches away from Breana's body. As time has gone by, Stephen has grown paranoid and has installed a few security cameras outside his home where he now lives with his girlfriend. Speaking of his girlfriend, just days after Breana's death, Stephen's girlfriend was seen wearing Breana's necklace, a necklace that was made for her by her mother. Breana's autopsy report has yet to be released to the public because this case is still under investigation. It's alleged that Stephen has seen the autopsy report but refuses to allow Breana's family and the public to have any access to it. As for the 911 call, it isn't public either. However, Brittany has listened to it and she says Stephen was being told to perform CPR, but he wouldn't. Throughout the entire call, he was just telling his side of the story. He didn't attempt to save Breana until the paramedics began arriving in the background. Earlier this year, a letter was sent to Brittany by the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. It reads, "We are returning your request for a certified copy of reports of the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences, complete report relative to the above referenced case. District Attorney Pamela Casey has notified the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences that this case remains under criminal investigation. Consequently, the final reports in this case are not currently public record." An update was posted on Facebook by Brittany on March 31st, where she mentions that a wrongful death lawsuit was filed against Stephen, which means a fair investigation with the chance of having access to all of the evidence, especially the autopsy report, which is one of their biggest concerns. Then on May 17th, Brittany updated on Facebook saying this, "The grand jury reconvened at the end of March. Nobody ever told us the outcome except for the people who heard it from the husband. After asking the DA weeks after the grand jury was over, we were told that there was no indictment. I requested another autopsy report with ADFS back in early April. A couple weeks went by and still nothing, so I called and asked if it was available and was told that they were waiting on the DA's approval to release it. Here it is almost the end of May and still no report. If the case is closed, I don't understand why we still have not been able to get our hands on the report." Breana's family have set up a petition on change.org to publicize Breana's autopsy report. At the time of recording, it only needs 2,000 more signatures. A GoFundMe was set up as well to help them pay for any legal fees. Their goal is $20,000, but have only received $5,000. For the most part, they have been paying everything from their own pockets. They also have a private Facebook group. It was once public, but unfortunately, Stephen's girlfriend would get on it and poke fun at the Noojin family, and therefore, she had to make it private. If you want to donate, sign, or both, the links to both will be down below. I want to give a big thanks to Ken so much for recommending this case to me. He was a close friend of Breana from high school, and most importantly, I want to give a big thanks to him for helping me get in contact with Brittany. We spoke on the phone, and she gave me a few updates. What I can share is that Stephen did win the lawsuit, and Breana's family now feel like they've hit a brick wall. Brittany has reached out to many to cover this case, news stations, celebrities, and YouTubers. So far, only small content creators have covered this case. I think there's only one large content creator that covered this, and they even did a live interview with Brittany. No matter how small or big the channels are though, they've been very thankful that they try to spread the word about Breana's case. But now, because I'm making a video on this, I hope that other larger content creators will see this, or at the very least hear about this case. Brittany has tried her hardest to spread the word about her sister's story, so now it's my turn. This case is now personal to me, especially after the phone conversation I had with Brittany. I promised her that I would do my best, because now, it's just a waiting game. As a child, Breana was always very loving towards others, although she was somewhat quiet and shy. She was well behaved and did very well all throughout school academically. Her teachers would always rave about how she was one of the best students they've ever had. Breana would consistently win spelling bees and math competitions. As she grew older, she maintained straight A's in school and began taking advanced courses. She was one of the students the teachers would want in their class. She knew in early high school she wanted to become a nurse, and she enjoyed helping and looking after others. She began her nursing journey at age 17. She took advanced placement courses throughout her junior and senior year. In nursing school, she would consistently make the dean's list. She was very determined to do well and make this her career. Here is an example. After totaling her car one day, her biggest concern was the driver of the other car and how she would get to class the next day for an upcoming exam. Her first job out of nursing school was at a rehab center for drug/alcohol addicts. She worked this job on and off for several years. She then worked as a registered nurse at St. Vincent's and Princeton and Birmingham Surgery Center. Breana enjoyed being around family as well. She enjoyed time with her grandparents, being at the lake, spending lots of time with her sister even after they had both moved out of the house. She frequently would come to my house and Brittany's. Breana was always very quiet until you got to know her. Then she would cut up and could make you laugh by pulling harmless pranks on others. During high school, she played in the band and played on the local softball team. Everyone loved being around her. She made lifelong friends with those she befriended in elementary, middle, and high school. Breana's friends were the type of friends a parent would want for their child. She was very close to her friends throughout her school years and her career in nursing. These friends showed their loyalty when Breana was laid to rest. Every one of them were there. Her sister Breana Noojin moved to Hayden in fall of 2019 to be near her sister. They hung out almost on a daily basis. Breana was very beautiful. She had long flowing hair, gorgeous eyes, an infectious smile and personality. She never said anything negative about another person. She was a beautiful person inside and out. She loved animals, mainly dogs, music, lakes, the beach, her friends and family, and her favorite holiday was Halloween. She was very considerate of others. She would help solve problems for those that came to her. She would give money to anyone that needed it, and she always made sure she had a gift for friends and family on special occasions. She truly put others before herself.
Chain that has bound me. In your presence I am calm, waiting for